Your grandmother's kitchen had a pencil sharpener screwed to the counter. The elevator at the department store opened its doors without anyone pulling them. The lawn mower your father pushed every Saturday, the ironing board your mother unfolded before church, the traffic light that kept your children safe on the walk to school. Every single one of those things has a name behind it, a black name, and nobody taught you that in school. The inventions survived. The inventors did not make it into the textbooks. Number 17 on this list changed the way every home in America thinks about safety. Number 7 gave surgeons a tool that restores sight to people who had been told they would never see again. And number 1 saved more lives on the battlefield than most generals ever did. Hit subscribe because here are 25 black inventors behind everyday things America forgot about. Number 25, the portable pencil sharpener. In 1897, a carpenter from Fall River, Massachusetts, named John Lee Love, patented a small hand-crank device that sharpened a pencil evenly and caught the shavings inside a closed container. Before his design, sharpening a pencil meant pulling out a knife and whittling the wood away by hand. The shavings went everywhere. Teachers hated it. Love's invention was so clean and so practical that within a few years, versions of it showed up on nearly every desk in every school and every office in the country. Your teacher had one clamped to her desk. Your mother kept one in the kitchen drawer. The man who made all of that possible was a black carpenter whose name never appeared in a single textbook. Number 24, dry scouring. In 1821, a tailor in New York City named Thomas L. Jennings became the first black American to receive a United States patent. His process was called dry scouring, a method of cleaning delicate fabrics without water damage. Jennings used the money from that patent to fund legal battles on behalf of his community. He fought for the right of black New Yorkers to ride public transit. He put earnings toward abolition campaigns. The dry cleaning industry that exists today, every strip mall storefront with plastic wrapped garments hanging in the window, traces its earliest roots to a process developed by a black tailor in Lower Manhattan more than 200 years ago. He cleaned the clothes, and then he used what he earned to help clean the path for everyone who came after him. Number 23, the improved ironing boards. Before Sarah Boone filed her patent in 1892, pressing clothes meant laying fabric flat on a table or a wooden plank. Sleeves bunched, collars came out creased. Boone designed a narrower curved board that fit inside a sleeve and allowed fabric to be pressed smoothly on both sides without folding over itself. She filed the patent herself and drew every diagram by hand. The board that stood in your grandmother's hallway closet, the one she pulled out every Sunday morning before church, follows the basic shape that Boone put down on paper in the late 1800s. It was designed by a black woman whose name your grandmother almost certainly never heard. Number 22, the gas heating furnace. In 1919, Alice H. Parker of Morristown, New Jersey, filed a patent for a gas-powered central heating system that used individually controlled burners to distribute warm air through a building. Before her design, most homes relied on wood-burning fireplaces or coal stoves that heated one room at a time. Parker imagined a system where regulated gas flow could warm an entire house evenly. Her patent laid conceptual groundwork for the forced air furnaces that became standard in American homes. The warm air pushing through the vents in your hallway on a cold morning, that basic principle started with the black woman's patent filed more than 100 years ago. She never saw it mass-produced. The idea outlived the credit. Number 21, the improved lawnmower. In 1899, John Albert Burr patented a rotary blade lawnmower with an improved design that prevented grass from clogging the blades. Before Burr, push mowers jammed constantly. You had to stop every few minutes, flip the thing over, pull the wet grass out by hand, and start again. Burrs and close design kept the blades clear and made the cut even. Every Saturday morning your father spent behind a push mower, he was using a descendant of the machine, a black. Inventor made functional. Nobody put that on the box. Here's something worth saying before this list goes any further. The United States patent system was never built for Black Americans. Before the Civil War, enslaved people were legally barred from holding patents. Their inventions belonged to the men who owned them. After emancipation, the obstacles shifted but did not disappear. Patent attorneys cost money most Black families did not have. Many of the inventors on this list worked in isolation, with no laboratory, no university backing, no venture capital. They filed their own paperwork. They drew their own diagrams. Some of them never saw a dollar from what they created. And yet, the things they invented became so deeply woven into daily life that their names simply fell away. What remained was the object on the counter, the machine in the factory, the system inside the wall, without the name attached. Number 20, the fountain pen. In 1890, W.B. Purvis patented improvements to the fountain pen that made the ink flow more reliably and reduced the constant leaking that made earlier models impractical for daily use. Before Purvis, fountain pens were temperamental. They stained your shirt pocket, bled through paper, and required constant adjustment. His design used a more controlled ink feed mechanism that kept the flow steady and predictable. Business offices adopted fountain pens as their standard writing instrument in the decades that followed. Every letter your grandfather signed in clean blue ink owed something to the work of a Black engineer whose name was never printed on the barrel. Number 19, automatic elevator doors. Before Alexander Miles came along, elevator shafts stood wide open on every floor. No gates, no barriers. You stepped too close, you fell. Children wandered near those openings, and the drop was several stories straight down. Miles lived in Duluth, Minnesota, and he rode an elevator with his young daughter one day and watched her drift too close to the edge. He filed a patent in 1887 for a mechanism that triggered doors at each floor, opening when the car arrived and closing when it left. Today, every elevator on the planet works on that same principle. The doors open, you step in, they close. You never once think about the man who made sure an open shaft was no longer waiting for you on the other side. Number 18, the improved electrical resistor. Otis Boykin was an inventor and engineer who held more than 24 patents over the course of his career. His most significant contribution was an improved electrical resistor, a small component that controls the flow of electricity inside a circuit. Resistors go into everything: radios, televisions, computers, guided missiles. But the application that made Boykin's work a matter of life and death was the pacemaker. His resistor design became a critical component inside the device that regulates a human heartbeat. Boykin himself died of heart failure in 1982 in Chicago. The device his work helped build was keeping other people alive while his own heart gave out. Number 17, the home security system. In 1969, Marie Van Britten Brown, a nurse in Queens, New York, filed a patent alongside her husband Albert for a closed-circuit television security system designed for residential use. Brown worked irregular hours and often came home late at night to a neighborhood where police response times were slow. She wanted to see who was at her door without opening it. Her system used a camera, a television monitor, a two-way microphone, and a remote-controlled door lock. Every doorbell camera, every monitored entry system, every screen that shows you who is standing outside before you decide whether to let them in traces back to a patent filed by a Black nurse who was tired of feeling unsafe in her own home. She did not wait for someone to protect her. She built the protection herself. Number 16, portable refrigeration. Frederick McKinley Jones grew up in Cincinnati without finishing high school. He was largely self-taught. By the 1930s, he had developed a portable refrigeration unit that could be mounted on trucks. Before Jones, long-haul food transport meant packing goods in ice and hoping they survived the trip. Jones changed the entire logistics of food distribution in the United States. Grocery stores could stock produce from 1,000 miles away. Military supplies could reach soldiers overseas without rotting in transit. Jones was eventually awarded more than 60 patents over his career. The cold aisle at your local grocery store, the frozen section, the fresh strawberries in January, all of that runs on a system a self-taught black engineer designed. Number 15, the shoe lasting machine. John Ernst Matzeliger arrived in the United States from Suriname in the 1870s and settled in Lynn, Massachusetts, the center of the American shoe industry. At that time, the final step of shoemaking, lasting, which means stretching and shaping leather over a foot form, was done entirely by hand. A skilled worker could last roughly 50 pairs in a day. Matzeliger spent years developing a machine that automated the process. When he patented it in 1883, his machine could handle several hundred pairs a day. The price of shoes dropped dramatically. Matzeliger died of tuberculosis at 36. The machine that put shoes on millions of American feet was built by a black immigrant who never got to enjoy what he made possible. There is a pattern on this list that deserves a name. Nearly every inventor here built something that became invisible through success. The better the invention worked, the more it disappeared into the background of daily life. Nobody thinks about the resistor inside a pacemaker. Nobody wonders who designed the mechanism that closes the elevator door. Nobody looks at a shoe and asks who made it affordable. That is the paradox of useful invention. The highest compliment the world pays a good idea is to forget who had it. But when the inventor is a black man or a black woman working in a country that did not want to credit them, forgetting becomes erasure. And erasure has a cost. It means generations of black children grew up believing that invention was something other people did. That was never true. Number 14, the multiplex telegraph. Granville T. Woods held more than 60 patents, but the one that mattered most was a device that let moving trains send and receive messages. Before Woods, a train in motion was sealed off from the world. If another train was on the same track, there was no way to warn anyone. Collisions happened. People died. Woods built a system that sent electrical signals through the rails themselves, and it changed everything about rail safety. Thomas Edison tried to claim credit. Woods took him to court. Woods won. He spent much of his later life in poverty, selling patents to companies that made fortunes off his work while paying him almost nothing. Every subway car that does not collide with another underground traces back to what Woods built. They called him the Black Edison. The truth is, Edison could not do what Woods did. Number 13, the automatic lubricator. Elijah McCoy was born in Canada to parents who had escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad. He studied engineering in Scotland and returned to North America, where the only work available to a black man with his credentials was as a fireman and oiler on the Michigan Central Railroad. His job was to manually lubricate the engine's moving parts, a task that required the train to stop every few miles. McCoy invented an automatic lubricator that dripped oil steadily while the engine ran, eliminating the need for constant stops. The device worked so well that engineers began asking for it by name. According to widely told accounts, buyers who wanted the original would ask for the real McCoy. The lubricator changed industrial machinery forever. Number 12, the hair care system. Madam C.J. Walker, born Sarah Breedlove in Louisiana in 1867, developed a line of hair care products designed specifically for black women at a time when no major company considered that market worth serving. She built a manufacturing operation, a nationwide sales force of trained agents, and a brand that became a household name in Black communities across the country. Walker became one of the wealthiest self-made women in American history. But her contribution was not just commercial. She created an economic pathway for thousands of Black women who worked as Walker agents, earning independent income in an era when employment options for Black women were brutally limited. The hair products were the vehicle. The real invention was a distribution system that put money in the hands of Black women when almost nobody else would hire them. Number 11, food preservation. Lloyd Hall was a chemist who transformed the way the American food industry preserved meat and other perishable goods. Over his career, he held more than 50 patents, many related to curing salts, antioxidants, and sterilization techniques that extended the shelf life of food without compromising safety. Before Hall's methods, meat processing was unreliable. Spoilage was common. Hall's formulations became industry standards adopted by major meatpacking companies across the country. The canned goods in your pantry, the deli meat in your refrigerator, the seasoned sausage at the cookout, all of those products stay safe in part because of chemistry developed by a Black scientist whose name appears on none of the packaging. Number 10, the electric microphone. James West, working at Bell Laboratories in the early 1960s, co-invented the electric microphone, a compact, inexpensive, and highly sensitive microphone that could be mass-produced. Before the electric design, microphones were bulky, expensive, and fragile. Today, an overwhelming share of all microphones manufactured worldwide, the ones inside your phone, your laptop, your hearing aid, your car, use electric technology derived from West's original design. He spent decades at Bell Labs and earned more than 200 patents. The microphone that picks up your voice every time you make a phone call exists because a Black engineer at a New Jersey laboratory figured out how to make sound small and affordable. Number 9, the video game cartridge. Gerald Lawson led the engineering team at Fairchild Semiconductor that created the Fairchild Channel F in 1976, the first home video game console that used interchangeable cartridges. Before Lawson's system, a game console played only the games hardwired into it. When you got bored, you bought a whole new machine. Lawson's cartridge system meant you could swap games the way you swap records on a turntable. Every console that followed uses the same basic idea. Pull out one cartridge, snap in another. Lawson grew up in Queens, the son of a longshoreman. He taught himself engineering by repairing televisions and radios in his neighborhood. The entire modern gaming industry runs on a concept a self-taught Black engineer from Queens put into production. Number 8, the Super Soaker. Lonnie Johnson was a nuclear engineer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory working on spacecraft missions, including the Galileo probe to Jupiter. In 1982, while testing a heat pump that used water as a working fluid, he accidentally shot a powerful stream of water across his bathroom. That accident became the Super Soaker. Johnson licensed the design, and it became one of the best-selling toys in American history. A man who helped build systems for deep space exploration created the toy your children fought over in the backyard every summer. Number 7, the laser phaco probe. Patricia Bath grew up in Harlem. Her father was a merchant seaman. Her mother worked cleaning jobs to put money aside for her children's education. Bath became an ophthalmologist and in 1988 patented the laser phaco probe, a tool that uses laser technology to remove cataracts. She was the first Black woman in the country to hold a patent for a medical device. Bath co-founded an organization built on the idea that sight is a basic human right and traveled to underserved communities across multiple continents, restoring vision to people who had been told nothing could be done. The tool she invented is still used in operating rooms today Most surgeons who pick it up have no idea a black woman from Harlem designed it. The 5 inventors who remain on this list did not simply create useful objects, they changed the infrastructure, the lights in your house, the signals on your street, the food on your table, the computer on your desk, the blood supply in your hospitals. These are not gadgets, these are foundations, and every one of them was laid by a black mind working in a country that was not interested in giving credit where it belonged. The names on the next 5 items are not footnotes. They are load-bearing walls. America just forgot to label them. Number 6, the personal computer. Mark Dean was an engineer at IBM who co-created the industry-standard architecture bus, the internal system that allowed peripheral devices to be plugged into a personal computer. Without that architecture, a computer was a sealed box. You could not add a printer, a modem, or a disk drive. Dean's work made the personal computer expandable, customizable, and useful for ordinary people. He later led the team that developed a computer capable of processing 1 billion calculations per second. Dean holds 3 of IBM's original 9 patents for the personal computer. The machine that transformed offices, schools, and homes across the world has a black engineer's name on 1/3 of its foundational patents. Number 5, the carbon filament. Thomas Edison gets the credit for the light bulb, but the bulb Edison built burned out in minutes. It was Lewis Latimer, a black draftsman and engineer, who developed the carbon filament that made the light bulb last long enough to be useful. Latimer's filament burned for hours instead of minutes, making electric lighting practical for homes, offices, and streets. He also supervised the installation of public electric lighting in New York City. Latimer was the son of formerly enslaved parents. He taught himself drafting while serving in the Union Navy during the Civil War and went on to work with both Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison. He drew the patent diagrams for Bell's telephone. The light that came on when you flipped the switch in your hallway worked because a black man figured out how to make it last. Number 4, peanut-based innovation. George Washington Carver did not invent peanut butter. That is a widely repeated claim, but it is not accurate. What Carver did was far broader. Working at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, he developed hundreds of products derived from peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans, including dyes, plastics, adhesives, and agricultural preparations. His real contribution was agricultural strategy. He taught black farmers across the South to rotate their crops, planting nitrogen-fixing peanuts and sweet potatoes between cotton harvests to restore depleted soil. That advice saved farms, it fed families, it gave black agricultural communities a viable path forward when the boll weevil devastated cotton harvests across the region. Carver was not just an inventor, he was a systems thinker who gave black farmers the science to survive on land that had been worked to exhaustion. Number 3, the traffic signal and the safety hood. Garrett Morgan filed 2 patents that are still saving lives today. The first was a breathing device he called a safety hood, an early form of the gas mask. In 1916, Morgan personally used it to rescue workers trapped in a tunnel beneath Lake Erie after an explosion filled the passage with toxic fumes. He went in when others would not. The second patent was for a 3-position traffic signal that introduced a warning position between stop and go. Before Morgan's design, intersections had only 2 signals. Drivers went from full stop to full speed with no transition. The yellow caution light that stands between red and green on every street corner today exists because Morgan saw the gap and filled it. A black man built the mask that let rescuers breathe underground and the signal that keeps drivers alive above ground. Both inventions are so woven into daily life that nobody stops to ask where they came from. Number 2, the sugar refining process. Norbert Rillieux was born in New Orleans in 1806, the son of a French engineer and an enslaved woman of African descent. He was educated in Paris, where he became an expert in thermodynamics. In the 1840s, he invented a multiple effect evaporation system that revolutionized the way sugar was refined. Before Rillieux, sugar processing relied on a dangerous method called the Jamaica train, where workers ladled boiling cane juice from one open kettle to the next by hand. Burns were constant. Rillieux's closed system evaporator was safer, faster, and produced a higher grade of sugar at lower cost. His invention became the standard for sugar refining around the world. The white granulated sugar in your kitchen cabinet is refined using a process a black Creole engineer from Louisiana invented nearly 2 centuries ago. Number 1, blood plasma preservation. Charles Drew was a surgeon and medical researcher who developed techniques for processing and storing blood plasma on a large scale. In the early 1940s, as the Second World War created an urgent demand for blood supplies, Drew directed the first large-scale blood bank program for the American Red Cross. His methods for separating and preserving plasma made it possible to ship blood products overseas to wounded soldiers, saving countless lives on the battlefield. Drew was the first Black American to earn a Doctor of Science degree from Columbia University. He later protested the military's policy of segregating blood donations by race, a policy he called scientifically indefensible. The man who figured out how to keep blood alive long enough to save a soldier thousands of miles away had to fight his own government over the idea that blood had a color. Every blood bank operating today runs on what Charles Drew built. 25 names, 25 inventions that most of America uses every single day without a second thought. The pencil sharpener on the desk and the blood bank down the street, the elevator door that closes behind you, and the light that comes on when you walk into the room. These were not accidents. These were acts of genius by people who were told they had no place in a room where genius happened. They built anyway. Which of these names did you already know, and which one hit you the hardest?